afternoon, everyone. We are from Team 2, consists of Keisha, Daniel, Shepard, Jonathan, and Poston. Will tell you about our strategies and solution in solving Indonesia's housing crisis. Next, we have our executive summary. So basically, there's a crisis in Indonesia housing market, driven by high demand and low supply, and we need an urgent solution to solve it. So we have our key question here is how can we solve the Indonesian housing crisis and ensure housing prices remain affordable and accessible? So we came up with three strategies and we also project the impact of our solution by net present value of 1.7 trillion rupiah and internal rate of return by 6% and payback period in 19 years.
So, what has been happening in Indonesia currently? In Indonesia, there is a housing crisis that is happening today. So, approximately 220 million Indonesians will live in urban areas. So, what does this mean? This means high demand and very low supply to meet that demand. So, that means Indonesia's housing price index has been on the rise, with 1.89% increase in Q1 of 2024 from 1.74% increase in Q4 2023. What has this created? This has resulted in some urban areas having some of the highest price to income ratios in the world, with Bandung and Jakarta overtaking cities like New York and Tokyo and Singapore, as you can see here. So, what has this created for the Indonesian populace? Well, this has created significant housing backlog in Indonesia's urban areas. West Java has the highest in 2.8 million, followed by East Java in 1.2 million housing backlog, then DKI Jakarta with 1.4 million, then Sumatera Utara with 1. The national total of housing backlog is 9.9 million. Home ownership is also much more prevalent in rural areas than in urban areas. In urban areas, 78.1% of people own homes. In rural areas, a more than 20% increase, 91.76% of people own homes. The national average is 84.9%. In areas like Jakarta, home ownership rates can get as low as 56%. This just illustrates the sheer disparity between home ownership rates in urbanized areas and in rural areas. This housing crisis is particularly dangerous for Indonesia's youth. Approximately 81 million Indonesian young adults now struggle to buy a home. So, what has the Indonesian government done to fight this housing crisis? There are three key policies in which we are going to assess the Indonesian government's performance by. Firstly, Rusunawa. Rusunawa stands for Rumah Susun Sederhana, which is a cheap, simple mass housing with affordable monthly fees designed to transform slums into livable spaces. The problem with this policy is that it fails to target a key group, namely migrant workers that could not bear the city's cost of living and poor image reducing occupancy rates. Second policy is the land bank program, a government agency managing and guaranteeing the efficient use of land. It has the power to repossess and reallocate unused lands if necessary. The main problem with this policy is that keeping large amounts of land in a land bank requires enormous government financial commitment to maintain and to keep, and there's a lack of courage to repossess and reallocate unused lands by the government agency. And thirdly, the flagship program by the Indonesian government is Tabungan Perumahan Rakyat or TAPERA, a scheme by the government deducting 3% of salaries to put in a fund in order to make home and property purchases easier in the future. The main problem with this scheme is that it only targets the demand side of the housing crisis and it's not increasing supply at all of property in the property market. And there's significant public distrust as how it could be executed without much corruption or other problems that have plagued previous government programs like Jiwasraya.
Okay, now we will take a look at other countries' attempts at solving the housing crisis. We'll focus on two cities that are already famous for their social housing programs. Uh, those are the city of Vienna and Singapore. We know that the average rent price to income ratio in both of these cities is ranged at 20 to 25%, and it is lower than in the US and, of course, in Indonesia. And there are some similar policies in these countries regarding the housing programs. The first one is that both of these countries have developed massively on their social housing. We know that Vienna have successfully built more than 200,000 of social rented apartments, while Singapore had built more than 1 million units for over the years. And the second policy is the zoning regulation, where both countries have created policies that makes it easier for the government to acquire land, and some portion of every private flats developed by the private developer must be rented out for the public in a discounted rate. And the third policy that we will be talking about is the social housing fund system. In Vienna, the government of Vienna implemented 1% housing tax on all of Viennese resident salaries. And in Singapore, there is the Central Provident Funds, or CPF, that ensure all employees and employers to contribute a portion of their incomes, and it can be withdrawn for many purposes. One of them is to purchasing a house in Singapore, and it is similar to our Tapera program in Indonesia. And uh, we think that the social housing fund system, whichever it is, will only be effective if the government also do something for the supply side of houses, like the constructing the social housing, and then the policy making. And only if the funds from the social housing fund system, if the funds are managed as intended, so to say there is no corruption or fraud or anything like that, then it will be effective to solving to become one of the tools to solving the housing crisis.
Before we dive into the solutions, let's take a look at the problem grouping. So we group the area into two types. The first one is the area with much of unused lands, and the second one is populated cities with few of unused land. These are the solutions that we offered for area with few supply of unused lands. For instance, there are Jakarta, Banten, and West Java. According to the BPS, the unused land in Jakarta was below 5%, while for Banten is around 3 to 4%, and for West Java is around 3 to 4% as well. So the solutions are taxing vacant properties, additional property tax, and also transforming slums. We know that one of the biggest reasons for high price in properties is, of course, speculation. There's so much speculation of properties by the rich in populated cities and big cities, and so taxing vacant properties would be reasonable to solve this problem. Charging more taxes for more than one property is another way to solve this speculation problem and also stopping the speculation as well. With not many land to the housing community, then transforming the slums into a public housing would be a better solution, whether it is for the slums resident or for the homeless people. So how do we transform the slums? First, we will pick an area, a strategic location, and then we will do a planning on that area, how to build the public housing. We will do a research on that area. We will do research about the potential risks like natural disaster, the land condition, etc. And then we will have the jobless person, train them into a construction worker, and then we will have them to do the construction, and there you go, you have your public house. So this solution also lowered the unemployment rate. These are our solutions for area with many supply of unused lands. For instance, there are not Sumatra with 9.2% of backlog housing. We believe that this is due to a high poverty resulting in low purchasing power, and there are so many of high net worth individuals speculate the property prices to rocket up. The first solution we offer is tenant purchase scheme. Applying this method, we solve the purchasing power problem along with taking down the property prices. And there are also the tax for speculating motive that I've explained before. And there are also labor intensive project. Applying learning by doing, we believe that labor intensive project will be the perfect solution to stop the purchasing power problem and also lower the unemployment rate. Public housing construction. These are the most obvious way to solve the backlog housing problem through accommodating homeless people by doing and applying the public housing program in high-rise building.
And now we will take a look on our construction plans. On the first year, we will build five apartments that will be rented out for the public in discounted rate. For each of these apartments, there will be 280 units of type 36 rooms with two bedrooms and one bathroom. And for the ground floor, we will reserve it for shop houses buildings, which will give job opportunities for those who forced to leave their stores or shop houses from the slums area when they move to our apartments. And then it will be rented out in a discounted rate. On the first year, we will construct our apartments in the region of West Jakarta. And you can see here our implementation timeline starting from the third quarter of 2024, which included our legalizing and acquiring and land acquiring, and then our funding until our constructions has finished or completed in the year 2034. And now you can see our estimation of the investment on the construction project on the left side of the page. You can see that our total investment for over 10 years will mounted to more than 30 trillion rupiah. And on the right side of the page, you can see that we will fund these initial investments by issuing 30 trillion bonds that will be matured in 10 years in 2034 with a coupon rate of 7%. You can scan this QR code right here to know our full financial calculation. And then when this construction project is finished, we will be providing more than 200,000 units that are affordable for low to middle income households in Indonesia, especially in the region of Jakarta.
Next, we have the social benefits of our solution, which providing communities with large positive externalities by first increasing renters' yearly spending by 229 billion rupiah. Second, increasing yearly salary due to better job opportunities by 450 billion rupiah. And the last one is reduction in health expenses by 151 billion rupiah. Next slide, we have three risks that can impact the success of our solution and also the mitigation strategy for each of these risks. First, we have natural disaster. We will have an emergency precaution and insurance. Second, slower construction speed or construction delay. We will establish a strict progress monitor. And the third one is overrun cost. We will make a conservative estimates about the cost. That's it. Thank you for your attention.